Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Look what I've got. Because quite a lot of the early season cut flowers are now running to seed, and it's really important that I get a hold of some of this seed before it all shatters and falls to the floor. And if you want to have a little bit of control over where these plants are growing next year, you want to snip the seed pods before they all shatter on the floor so that you can dictate where these plants are growing next season. Now I'm picking these because I want to have a little bit of control next season about where these plants are growing, and I also want some of this seed to produce our plug plants. Also, if you grow on ground anything like mine and you have cold, wet, heavy clay in the wintertime, the likelihood is that not all of these plants would self-sow happily in the ground. Therefore, if you've really enjoyed your Nigella or your Buplorum this season and you definitely want to grow it again next year, now's the time to get out into your cut flower patch and start looking for seed that you want to save to grow again next season, because nothing germinates as well as fresh seed. You will find that you will get such good germination by bothering to go out now and not just getting distracted by all of the beautiful brightly coloured flowers that are currently still in bloom. Look a bit closer in your cutting patch and see if you can find some stems that are starting to run to seed and save the seed from it, because you'll definitely thank yourself for doing that next season. So I thought you might like to come with me today as I rifle through the flower beds and see what seed pods I can find, and I'll show you the stages at when the seed is ready and ripe to store for sowing. So let's go and have a look through the flower beds, and we'll start with this bed behind me because that's where I picked this stem of seed. But what is it? This here up in the neglected old perennial area is a big patch of Digitalis Loitia. I just left it up here because the bees absolutely love it. It flowered its little socks off this summer, and now it's just starting to turn to seed. There you can see it's drying off with its seed husks, and this stem here has actually already opened and the seed is shattered everywhere. So I really need to start getting to collect our perennial foxglove seed now. So what I'm looking for is seed pods like this where they are just about to fully dry out, and that's the stage that I'm going to pick them at, because once they're fully dried out the seed will just fall to the floor. So the problem with this salvia is it turns from unripe to ripe seed so quickly, and actually all of these flower husks here are now empty because it's already dropped that seed. So what I'm going to do is cut this whole stem here. This is the white frothy bed, and there's quite a lot, as you can see, which has run to seed, so we're going to get harvesting. So in the white bed we've also got a lot of ladybirds. Not sure what they're all doing in this bed. A whole big drift of cornflower snowman. Now this has started to run to seed, and you can see here, this is what happens when the flower petals are spent, but you can see here this bud's still green, so we don't want that one. What we actually want to be looking for is the stage after this. So from that it'll develop to look to that like that, but what we actually want to be looking for are the flowers when they reach this stage here. So you'll feel, and you can probably hear it on the camera there, it takes on a really sort of silvery straw colour, and you can feel there it feels like paper, and that is what we want to be taking back. This here was an absolutely gorgeous bed this year of frothy filler. We've still got some achillea that's growing on there, but most of this ammi now has run to seed. So it goes from this here to a green seed, and we want to be picking it when it's at this stage where it's turned that straw colour and the seed's ripe on the top there. This is Tanacetum or feverfew. We've grown a lot of this year. Now this is it here once the flowers are spent. The seeds on Tanacetum are absolutely tiny, and there'll be millions of them in the middle there. You can see it's just starting to shatter there in my fingers. I do want to be picking it when it's just at this stage here, rather than when it still has the yellow centre, because that seed won't be ripe yet. This here is our Buplorum, and I can see that the seed's ripe there. It's turned dark brown. by collecting this seed directly from the plant itself, it's more likely to germinate because we know we're getting super fresh seed. We're back in the potting shed and our initial first of the season seed pod harvest is now complete. Now I'm going to take it in turns and show you the different flower pods that we've collected and how I'm going to process the seed so that I can store it. This stem's Orleia. It's an absolutely gorgeous early season filler flower, so it's one of the first that started to produce its seed pods. In a spring video I was telling you how much I absolutely love Orleia, but that it can be a little bit tricksy to germinate from seed because it really likes to germinate from fresh seed. In that video I said if you can't get a hold of some fresh seed, just try your best to get at least one plant to germinate, because one plant will easily produce you at least 20 stems of seed pod, and I'll show you now how much seed each flower stem contains. So this is our Salvia Vaticans white. You can see on camera that it's still quite green. It's even got a couple of flowers still on the top, but what I noticed is the very early stages of the flowers have started to develop seed now, and they've actually, and some have started to produce seed. The seed is still currently green, but it ripens really quickly, and I've seen in a few of the flower husks it's already dropped its seed. So what I've chosen to do with the salvia is I've cut quite a few of the stems, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a flower bucket. And this looks awful considering how preciously we normally treat our flowers. I'm just going to stuff the stems into that flower bucket, and then I'm going to leave it here in this potting shed because it's warm and it's dry, but it's not hot, it's not baking the plant. So the plant material should naturally just dry as it would if it was in the field. And then I'm hoping that all of that seed falls into this bucket and I don't lose some of that seed, because I worry that if I get busy and I leave it in the field, I'm just going to miss the opportunity to harvest that seed. And this salvia was absolutely gorgeous this year, and I definitely want to grow more of it next year, so I put it in a big bucket. It looks awful, but it should do the trick. Now this twiggy seed head here is actually Hesperus, so this is from a white Hesperus plant. Now something to note if you're saving your own seed is, I just thought it'd be interesting to briefly make you aware that if you've grown a plant with two different colour varieties in your growing area, the likelihood is it's been pollinated and it will have cross-pollinated. So cross-pollinated means with, say, the Hesperus, for example, the same pollinators will have gone to the purple plants as they've gone to the white plants. So you will get a cross of the two. Sometimes with certain varieties you'll get a dominant colour which will always try and come through. I actually wanted this Hesperus to cross-pollinate, so I planted some white very close to some purple. So I wanted to save the seed from that, hoping that it has been cross-pollinated in this scenario, and I end up with a nice soft lilac colour, a lot softer than the purpley lilac that I normally grow. So I'm going to save the seed from this white Hesperus plant in the hope that it has cross-pollinated with a purple, and I get in a really nice coloured Hesperus growing next year. Because it's a biennial, it'll need to be sown as soon as possible so that I can guarantee I'm getting flowers next June. And this is our ripe Buplorum seed, another seed that germinates so much better from fresh seed. Now I feel it's a little bit warm and a little bit early to be sowing Buplorum seed at the minute because it actually likes a cold spell to germinate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my seed pods and a dish, and all I'm doing here is just squeezing and rubbing the flower husk, and then all the seed is falling out into the dish. And then I'm going to leave this in the potting shed for a couple of days to make sure it's fully dry, and then I'm going to transfer this Buplorum seed to the fridge so it gets a spell of cold before I start to sow it in probably about 4 weeks time. Now this flower stem here is Silene Blushing Lanterns. Now I love harvesting seed pods like this because it's got the added benefit of this noise. Be really careful when you harvest some of the seed pods if they're this ripe that you don't harvest them and turn them upside down, because the seed will fall out of them. So that we don't end up with seed going everywhere, I use these just little brown paper bags. I use paper because it allows the seed to breathe, whereas if it was plastic, any moisture left in the seed would make it sweat. So here goes. Oh, you can hear it all there falling in the bag. And then you just simply give it a shake. I like this bit. So in this bag now we have a whole lot of Silene seed. Oh, and a stem. Now with a few stems like Silene, you'll end up with seed husk, which is this. Now a seed husk is generally lighter than the seed itself. What you do is just gently blow off the seed husk to reveal the seed. Now I don't for 1 second think that that's how the big seed manufacturers do it, but if you're just dealing with small amounts of seed, that's a good way to get rid of the husks. Now we've got some Nigella. It's not been an amazing year for Nigella here. It came and it went very, very quickly. Now Nigella has really beautiful seed pods. They're really lovely for drying, for winter arrangements. So I would definitely recommend you keep some for that. So this seed is better to be bagged, just like we did with the Silene seed. But this isn't ripe yet, so these seed pods, so the centre of the seed pod hasn't opened yet. But if you give it a few days, by the time these stems have dried out, nature will take its course and it will open. You don't need to start peeling off these heads. You just need to stick it in a brown paper bag in a room that's dry and let it do its thing, and then shake the bag just like we did with the Silene, and all of the seed will be in the bottom of the bag. We've got our feverfew now, which may look on camera like each one of these is a ginormous seed, but it's not. Each one of them probably has about 1 million seeds in it. I don't know, I've not counted them, but there's a lot of seeds in each one of these. So what I like doing again is getting a bowl and squeezing, and then all the little seeds fall into the bowl. Then we've got our cornflower, and I'll take a guess that many people who have grown cornflower have grown lots of different varieties. So remember, even though I know I've harvested snowman white here, I also know that I've got pink and blue and purple in this field. So I'm aware that the likelihood of this coming true to white is probably quite slim. But what I'm excited by in this scenario is what colour it's actually going to come out and what colour mix I'm going to get from this variety. Flower seeds to me always look like little tiny paintbrushes, and that seed pod currently doesn't look like a little tiny paintbrush. So I'll show you in mega close up what these seeds look like. This is another biennial plant that needs sowing straight away if we're going to use the seed from this year. This is Lunaria, or Honesty. What you should be able to see there through the seed pods is those little black dots, and they are the seeds that will produce your Lunaria or Honesty plants next year. We've got our perennial Lotia foxgloves. Now, just like the salvia, I was worried with the foxgloves that I was going to forget about collecting the seed. So this is almost ripe seed now. So again, it comes down to another dry bucket and just dropping those stems upside down in the bucket, so that when those stems dry, all the seed will fall down into the bucket. And finally, we've got lupins. So this is the seed pod from lupins. So you can see by the shape of the seed pod that it's from the pea family, because they look like little pea pods. You have to wait until the pods have turned black and they're crispy, because that means they're ripe. And then you just crack them, and then all of your lupin seeds is in the centre there. And that is the perfect way for me to end this video, because next week we're going to start to sow some perennials ready to flower next season, and we're going to be sowing some lupins. I hope you now feel inclined to go out into your cutting patch and not just look at the beautiful flowers, but look at the seed pods that are forming and think about what your flower patch is going to look like next year, and gather some seed now, because then next year you'll get lots of plants that you know grow happily in your soil conditions and climate. And that is always a great place to start. And if you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week when we're going to be sowing ourselves some perennials.